This is Ed from Exotic Blanks, once again welcoming you to a video that we're producing on a new product, Faux Stone. Many of you have turned true stone. We thought we'd try something a little different, call it false stone. So this is what we're going to try, and pay close attention because there's some interesting stuff in this video. First, we're going to start off with several different tools, one of which is going to be the roughing gouge. That's the first tool you'll see. On this video, I'm going to let you see and hear each of the tools, so you won't get an awful lot of voiceover until later on, but this is probably a good way for you to get an idea of what it should sound like and not be too afraid when you hear this. At this point, we're moving on to the Easy Wood carbide tool, which also makes a lot of noise, but you'll notice it's doing a lot more cutting. We're getting ribbons off on both of these tools, but take a look at how much more we're taking off with the carbide. And last, I've got it down to a round object, so I bring out the skew, and that's where I'm comfortable, so I'll do the rest of the turning with the skew. Again, you'll see that the noise is significantly reduced now that there are no corners. So what I've hopefully shown is that you can cut this with pretty much any tool and still get ribbons off of it. It is not a difficult material to cut. It is very dense. There's no doubt about that. It's not easy cutting. But by the same token, it's been 3.5 minutes since we started turning this, and as you can see, it's now down to round. So it certainly isn't a difficult thing to do. Pretty much with any tool in your repertoire, you ought to be able to bring it down to round. Now, once I got it down to round, you can see that it looks pretty good on this particular pass through. Honestly, I then took it off the lathe and did my finishing on the two ends, where I put it on the sanding device to flush the ends. And then I put it back on the lathe because it was then ready to turn into a pen. When I put it back on the lathe and did the final turning, I did it with a very small skew, just so that I would get down to the bottom, to the final size, and have the look that I like. Now we move into the sanding and use 400 grit for about half a minute. The total amount of sanding that was done here was 1 minute. 400 grit and then 600 grit, and my expectation was that it was going to look just fine and dandy and everything would be finished. I've done a couple others before and they were just fine and dandy and everything was finished, but we have a surprise ending to this one. When I stopped the lathe and took a look, I had plenty of tiny bubbles and no champagne. So I realized that there were lots of little bubbles in this and tiny little pinholes. So now it's a question of how are we going to resolve that problem, and it really wasn't too difficult. First, we know we have to get the dust out of the little tiny holes, and so the first thing I tried was acetone. I wasn't terribly thrilled with the way that worked, and so I tried boiled linseed oil. That worked out quite well. I knew I was going to come back after that with a coat of thin CA, so I thought that it would be an accelerant as well. So if you use boiled linseed oil, that works quite well. Then I tried to dry it off a bit with a paper towel, and then put on a very thin coating of thin CA just to see what was going to happen, and everything went fine. So I put on another 2 coats of thin CA. At the end of that, I could still see ups and downs. It was much improved, but I could still see some that looked like there was a bit of a pit, and so I then put medium CA. Again, 1 coat of that, and then let it dry for quite a little while, probably 4 or 5 minutes. Went upstairs, and then came back down and did another coat of medium CA. Once that was complete, and once it had a chance to set, it was probably an hour and a half later, I came down and did sanding with 600, and it turned out absolutely beautifully. You can't see any of the pits. They're all covered up, of course, because they've got CA coating on them. It's an absolutely gorgeous pen, so it can be done, and as we say at the beginning, it's significantly less expensive than dealing with True Stone. So thank you for watching. We invite you to try the Faux Stone. I think you'll find that it's not difficult to work with, and the pens are really nice looking pens, and they're not quite as heavy, I don't think, as they are with True Stone. So give it a shot, see what you think of it, and of course I'm always interested in feedback. If you have some ideas that you'd like to see me do, or if you think something was right or wrong with this one, please feel free to comment. Look forward to getting any criticism, good or bad. Have a good evening. This is Ed from Exotic Blanks. Bye now.